The rain against the window of St. Jude's Memorial Hospital did not sound like rain. It sounded like static, a relentless gray hiss that seemed to press against the glass, trying to get in. Inside, the air was conditioned to a sterile chill, smelling of antiseptic and floor wax, a scent that Alara Vance had come to associate with the slow, quiet erosion of her own spirit. She stood at the nurse's station on the fourth floor, the cardiac wing, her hands folded neatly over a clipboard that she didn't need to hold. Her posture was perfect, almost rigid, a habit drilled into her bones years ago in a place far darker and colder than this brightly lit corridor. She watched the monitors, the rhythmic green lines tracing the heartbeats of 12 patients, each one a fragile thread holding a life to this world. To the doctors who walked past her, snapping their fingers for charts or barking orders without looking her in the eye, Alara was part of the furniture. She was the quiet nurse, the one who didn't speak up, the one who didn't have opinions, the one who simply existed to fetch supplies and document vitals, invisible in her efficiency, unnoticed in her presence. But today the static outside was louder than usual. Or perhaps it was just the tension inside Alara's chest, a tightness that had nothing to do with anxiety and everything to do with anticipation. She could feel it in the air, a shift in pressure like the drop before a storm breaks. She adjusted her badge, the plastic cool against her thumb, and glanced at the clock. 14:02. 2 minutes past the hour. In 2 minutes, Dr. Marcus Thorne would arrive for his rounds. And with him, the usual performance of dominance would begin. Alara lowered her eyes, not out of submission, but out of strategy. She had learned long ago that visibility was a liability when you were trying to survive. She kept her head down, her voice low, her movements economical. She was a ghost in white scrubs, haunting the halls of a hospital that had no idea what it held in its midst. If you are enjoying the atmosphere we are building here, the slow burn of tension before the storm, please take a moment to hit the like button. It helps us bring these stories to life, and it lets us know you are ready for the journey ahead. Alara Vance was 34 years old, though she looked older in the eyes of those who only saw the fatigue etched into the corners of her face. She was tall, with a lean, wiry strength that her oversized scrubs did little to hide. Her hair was pulled back into a severe bun, not a strand out of place, and her eyes were a pale, icy blue, the color of winter sky just before snow. They were eyes that had seen things most people only imagined in nightmares, eyes that had calculated kill zones and triage priorities in the span of a heartbeat. But here, in the soft, carpeted halls of St. Jude's, those eyes were dismissed as vacant, blank, uninterested. The staff called her Ice Queen behind her back, not because she was cruel, but because she was unyielding. She did not laugh at their jokes. She did not join their gossip circles in the break room. She did not complain about the long shifts or the difficult patients. She simply worked. And in a workplace culture built on shared misery and communal venting, silence was interpreted as arrogance, or worse, incompetence. Dr. Marcus Thorne was the chief of cardiology, a man whose ego was as large as the billing department's expectations. He was handsome in a sharp, predatory way, with perfectly styled hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. He wore his authority like a tailored suit, expensive and imposing. To Thorne, nurses were extensions of his will, tools to be used and discarded. He valued speed over precision, confidence over competence, and above all, he valued obedience. Alara gave him none of the first two and only the bare minimum of the third. This made her a target. For months, Thorne had been looking for a reason to remove her from his wing. He claimed she was too slow, that she lacked initiative, that she didn't fit the team dynamic. The truth was simpler. Alara made him uncomfortable. She didn't flinch when he yelled. She didn't apologize when she was right. And sometimes, when he issued an order that contradicted protocol, she would simply look at him, wait for him to finish, and then do the correct thing anyway. It was a subtle rebellion, quiet and devastating, and Thorne hated it. We are just getting started. If you want to stay with Alara as she navigates this hostile environment, make sure you are subscribed. We have a lot of ground to cover, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The hierarchy at St. Jude's was rigid, a pyramid of power that rested on the backs of the nursing staff. At the top were the attending physicians, gods in white coats who moved through the halls with an aura of infallibility. Below them were the residents, eager and anxious, trying to prove themselves. In came the charge nurses, who wielded petty power like a whip, and finally, the staff nurses, the foot soldiers of healthcare, expected to be everywhere at once, to know everything, and to ask for nothing. Alara was at the bottom of this food chain, or so everyone thought. She had been hired 6 months ago, recommended by a former colleague who had since retired. The hiring manager had been skeptical of her sparse resume, which listed only generic nursing experience and a gap of 5 years that Alara refused to explain. But the hospital was short-staffed, and Alara had passed the technical exams with perfect scores. So they hired her, and immediately they began to underestimate her. The micro-humiliations were daily occurrences. Thorne would hand her a chart upside down, forcing her to turn it around while he watched with a smirk. He would call her by the wrong name, testing to see if she would correct him. She never did. He would assign her the most difficult patients, the ones with complex histories and demanding families, knowing she would handle them with grace and then take credit for their stability. Alara absorbed it all. She stored it away, not as bitterness, but as data. She observed the patterns of the hospital, the weaknesses in the protocol, the gaps in the staff's knowledge. She knew which medications were often confused, which machines were prone to error, and which doctors were likely to make mistakes under pressure. She kept this knowledge to herself, waiting. She was not here to make friends. She was here to survive. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the layers of trauma and discipline, she was here to heal. Not just the patients, but perhaps in some small way herself. Let us know in the comments below. Have you ever worked in a place where your skills were ignored because of your personality or background? We'd love to hear your stories. The mystery of Alara Vance was a topic of speculation in the break room. Where had she come from? Why did she have scars on her forearms that looked like burns or perhaps rope marks? Why did she wake up screaming in the on-call room, though she always denied it when asked? Why did she sit with her back to the wall, scanning the exits, her body tense even in sleep? The other nurses whispered about her. Some said she was an ex-con, hiding from her past. Others said she was a junkie, clean now but still haunted. A few, the more imaginative ones, suggested she was a spy or a soldier or something else entirely. But no one guessed the truth. No one looked at the quiet, efficient nurse and saw the woman who had once led a medical team in the most hostile environments on Earth. No one saw the SEAL medic who had saved lives in the dark, who had earned call signs and respect from men who feared nothing. To them, she was just Alara, the quiet one. The weird one, the one who didn't belong. And yet there were breadcrumbs, small clues that if anyone had bothered to look would have painted a different picture. Alara's IV starts were flawless, every time, even on patients with collapsed veins. She could intubate a patient in seconds, her hands moving with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. She knew the pharmacokinetics of every drug in the formulary, not just the common ones, but the obscure, emergency-only agents that most doctors rarely used. She spoke 3 languages fluently: English, Spanish, and Arabic, switching between them effortlessly when comforting frightened patients. And she had a calmness in a crisis that was unnerving. When a code blue was called while others panicked, Alara became still. Her breathing slowed, her focus narrowed. She moved with a purpose that cut through the chaos like a knife. But these moments were rare, and when they happened, they were attributed to luck or experience or simply the fact that she was good with her hands. No one connected the dots. No one saw the pattern until today. Before we dive into the crisis that changes everything, take a second to share this video with a friend who appreciates a good story of justice served. It means the world to us. The afternoon shift was dragging, the hours stretching out like taffy. The hospital was busy but not overwhelmed. Patients slept, families waited, and the machines hummed their constant, reassuring songs. Alara was checking on Mr. Henderson in room 404, an elderly man with congestive heart failure who loved to tell stories about his time in the Navy. Alara listened, really listened, nodding at the right moments, asking questions that showed she cared. It was a skill she had learned in the field. Connection was as important as medication. A calm patient healed faster. A hurt patient trusted more. As she adjusted his pillows, she noticed a slight tremor in his left hand. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but to Alara it was a scream. She checked his pupils. They were equal and reactive. She checked his pulse. Strong, regular, but the tremor persisted. She frowned, a tiny crease appearing between her eyebrows. "Everything okay, Nurse Alara?" Mr. Henderson asked, his voice raspy. "Just checking your nerves, Mr. Henderson," she said softly. "Have you had any headaches today? Any vision changes?" He shook his head. "No, dear, just the usual aches and pains. You worry too much." Alara smiled, but her mind was racing. A tremor in a heart failure patient could be nothing, or it could be the early sign of a stroke, or an electrolyte imbalance, or a reaction to a new medication. She made a note in his chart, flagging it for the resident to review. It was a small action, insignificant in the grand scheme of the day, but it was the first thread pulled, and soon the whole sweater would unravel. She moved to the next room, then the next, her routine unbroken. But the feeling of anticipation grew stronger. The static outside seemed to intensify. The air in the hallway felt thick, charged. She glanced at the clock again. 14:45, 15 minutes until Thorne's rounds. She took a deep breath, centering herself. She was ready. She didn't know what was coming, but she knew she could handle it. She had handled worse, much worse. If you are hooked by the subtle details Alara is noticing, drop a comment with your theory on what might happen next. Is it a medical emergency? A confrontation? Let's guess together. Dr. Thorne arrived at 15:00 exactly, flanked by 2 residents and a group of medical students. He moved through the ward like a king, inspecting his domain, pointing out flaws, correcting minor errors, asserting his dominance. Alara stood by the nurse's station, watching him approach. She kept her face neutral, her hands clasped. Thorne stopped in front of her, his eyes narrowing. "Nurse Vance," he said, his voice loud enough for the students to hear. "I reviewed your notes on Mrs. Gable. You suggested increasing her beta-blocker dosage. Why?" Alara met his gaze. "Her heart rate has been trending upward for the last 24 hours, doctor. The current dosage isn't controlling it. Increasing it slightly would prevent tachycardia and reduce strain on the heart." Thorne sneered. "I am the doctor, Nurse Vance. I decide the dosage. You are here to administer it, not to prescribe it. Do not overstep your bounds again." The students watched, some with sympathy, others with amusement. Alara didn't flinch. "Understood, doctor," she said quietly. Thorne leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You are on thin ice, Vance. One more mistake, one more insubordination, and you are gone. Do you understand?" Alara nodded. "Yes, doctor." Thorne straightened up, smiling for the benefit of the students. "Good. Now let's move on. Room 404, Mr. Henderson. Let's see how our quiet nurse is handling the veteran." The group moved toward room 404. Alara followed, her heart beating steadily. She knew what they would find. She had flagged the tremor. She had noted the potential risk. And she knew with a certainty that chilled her blood that Thorne would miss it. He was too arrogant to look closely, too confident in his own invincibility. And that was dangerous, not just for Alara, but for Mr. Henderson. We are approaching the turning point. If you want to see how Alara handles this injustice, make sure you are following along. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the reveal. In room 404, Mr. Henderson was sitting up in bed, reading a newspaper. He looked fine, color in his cheeks, breathing easy. Thorne strode in, projecting confidence. "Mr. Henderson, how are we feeling today?" Thorne boomed. "Fine, doctor, just fine," Mr. Henderson replied. Thorne glanced at the chart, then at the monitor. "Vitals look stable. Good work, nurse, whatever your name is." "Vance," Alara said from the doorway. "Right, Vance. Did you notice anything unusual?" Alara stepped forward. "I noted a slight tremor in his left hand earlier, doctor, and he reported no headaches, but I recommend a neurological check to rule out a TIA." Thorne laughed, a harsh, dismissive sound. "A TIA? From a tremor? Don't be absurd, nurse. Mr. Henderson is fine. Stop looking for problems where there are none. It makes you look incompetent." The students chuckled nervously. Mr. Henderson looked confused. "Is something wrong, doctor?" No, Thorne said, patting his arm. "Just your nurse being overly cautious. Nothing to worry about." Alara said nothing. She watched Mr. Henderson's face. She saw the slight droop in his left eyelid. It was microscopic, fleeting, but she saw it. And she knew time was running out. This is a crucial moment. If you believe in standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, hit the like button. It supports the message of this story. Thorne turned to leave, dismissing the room. "Let's move on, room 405. Alara stayed behind for a second. She looked at Mr. Henderson. "Sir, if you feel any weakness or if your vision blurs, please press the call button immediately." "Do not wait." Mr. Henderson nodded, uneasy. "Okay, dear, thank you." Alara exited the room, her jaw tight. She had done what she could. She had warned him. Now it was out of her hands, or so she thought. But fate, it seemed, had other plans, and the storm that had been brewing outside was finally about to break inside. As Thorne's group moved down the hall, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then a loud crash echoed from the end of the corridor. A gurney had tipped over, spilling supplies. Chaos erupted. Nurses rushed to help. Doctors shouted. And in the confusion, no one noticed the code blue alarm light begin to flash above room 404. The crisis is here. If you are on the edge of your seat, share this video with someone who loves high-stakes drama. Alara saw the light. She didn't hesitate. She didn't ask for permission. She ran. Her movement was fluid, explosive, covering the distance to room 404 in seconds. She burst through the door to find Mr. Henderson slumped over, unconscious, his face purple. His heart had stopped. "Code Blue, room 404, she shouted, her voice cutting through the noise of the hallway. It was not a plea. It was a command. Thorne and the resident spun around, shocked by her tone. They ran back, but Alara was already at the bedside. She checked for a pulse. None. She began compressions, hard, fast, perfect, her arms locked, her body weight driving down with rhythmic precision. 1, 2, 3, 4, the rhythm of survival. "Get the crash cart," she yelled, not looking up. "Bag valve mask now." A young resident froze, unsure of what to do. Alara didn't wait. She continued compressions, her eyes on the monitor. Flatline, still flatline. "Epinephrine 1 milligram, she ordered. The resident fumbled with the drawer. Alara snapped. "Give it to me." She grabbed the syringe, injected it into the IV line, and flushed it. "Continue compressions," she told the nurse who had arrived. She took over the bag valve mask, ventilating Mr. Henderson with precise volumes. Thorne arrived, breathless. "What is happening? What did you do?" "He went into cardiac arrest," Alara said, her voice calm, focused. "I am following ACLS protocol. Stay back unless you are assisting." Thorne bristled. "I am the attending. Step aside." "No," Alara said, not breaking rhythm. "You are obstructing. If you want to help, take over compressions. Otherwise, shut up." The room went silent. The audacity of her statement hung in the air. Thorne was stunned. No one spoke to him like that, no one. But before he could react, the monitor beeped. A faint, irregular rhythm, sinus bradycardia, then a stronger beat, sinus rhythm. Mr. Henderson gasped, his eyes fluttering open. He was alive. Alara just saved a life against the odds. If you want to see how Thorne reacts to this humiliation, keep watching. Subscribe now. The room was still. The only sound was Mr. Henderson's ragged breathing and the steady beep of the monitor. Thorne stared at Alara, his face red with rage and embarrassment. He had been undermined, in front of his students, in front of his staff, by a nurse. A quiet, invisible nurse. "You," he sputtered, "you disobeyed a direct order." Alara stood up, stepping back from the bed. She checked Mr. Henderson's pupils again. Reactive. Good. She turned to Thorne. "I saved his life, doctor. According to hospital policy in a code situation, the most qualified person takes lead. I was the only one acting according to protocol. You were hesitating." "I was assessing," Thorne shouted. "You were posturing," Alara said quietly, "and Mr. Henderson nearly died because of it." The students looked at Thorne, then at Alara. The dynamic had shifted. The god in the white coat had been exposed as fallible, and the quiet nurse had been revealed as competent. But Thorne would not accept this. He could not. His ego was too fragile, his power too precarious. "Get out," he said, pointing to the door. "Get out of my wing. You are suspended pending an investigation. Hand over your badge." Alara didn't argue. She didn't fight. She simply unclipped her badge and placed it on the counter. "As you wish, doctor." She walked out of the room, her head high. She knew what was coming. She knew the investigation would be a sham. She knew Thorne would twist the narrative, paint her as insubordinate, dangerous. But she also knew the truth, and the truth had a way of surfacing eventually. This is the injustice spike. If you feel angry on Alara's behalf, you are not alone. Comment below with your thoughts on Thorne's behavior. The next 48 hours were a blur of bureaucratic cruelty. Alara was confined to her home, awaiting the outcome of the investigation. Thorne filed a report accusing her of gross insubordination, practicing medicine without a license, and endangering a patient. He cited her history of erratic behavior and her lack of teamwork. He recommended immediate termination. The hospital administration, eager to avoid liability and please their star cardiologist, leaned toward firing her. Alara sat in her small apartment, staring at the wall. She did not cry. She did not panic. She prepared. She gathered her documentation, the notes she had taken, the timestamps, the witness statements from the other nurses who had seen Thorne's hesitation. She knew she was fighting a losing battle, but she also knew she was not alone. She had kept her past hidden for a reason, but some reasons are worth breaking silence for. She picked up her phone. She dialed a number she had not called in 5 years. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, deep, gravelly, familiar. "Vance," the voice said, "it's been a while." "I need a favor, Commander," Alara said. Who is on the other end of that phone? If you have a guess, drop it in the comments. The reveal is coming soon. The commander was Silas Graves, former Navy SEAL, former leader of Dev Gru, and Alara's former commanding officer. He was a man who respected competence above all else. And he remembered Alara Vance not as a quiet nurse, but as Wraith, the medic who had dragged him out of a firefight in Kandahar with a bullet in his leg and a collapsed lung. He owed her his life, and he never forgot a debt. "What do you need, Wraith?" he asked. "I'm being framed," Alara said, "by a doctor who cares more about his ego than his patients. I need someone to listen, someone with authority." Graves was silent for a moment. "Send me the files, I'll make some calls." Alara hung up. She didn't know what Graves would do, but she knew he was a man who moved mountains, and she knew that St. Jude's Hospital was about to learn that some ghosts do not stay buried. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Thorne was celebrating. He had removed the threat. He had reasserted his dominance. He told his colleagues that Alara was unstable, that she had delusions of grandeur. He painted himself as the hero who had protected the hospital from a rogue employee. The administration bought it. The termination papers were drawn up. Alara Vance was to be fired in absentia, her record stained, her career over. But they had forgotten one thing. Mr. Henderson was still alive, and he was talking. "The tide is turning. If you want to see the authority figure step in, hit the like button. We are getting close to the climax." Mr. Henderson's family was furious. They had heard the nurses' whispers. They had seen the video footage from the hallway cameras which showed Thorne standing idle while Alara worked. They demanded to speak to the administrator. They threatened a lawsuit. The hospital's legal team panicked. They reviewed the footage. They saw the truth. Thorne had hesitated. Alara had acted, and Thorne had punished her for it. The administrator, a woman named Patricia Cole, was a pragmatist. She cared about the hospital's reputation, and a lawsuit from a prominent veteran's family was bad for business. She called Thorne into her office. "Dr. Thorne," she said, her voice cold, "explain this." She slid the tablet across the desk. The video played. Thorne watched, his face draining of color. He tried to stammer an excuse, but Cole cut him off. "We have a problem, doctor, a big one, and you are going to fix it, or you are going to join Nurse Vance in unemployment." Thorne left the office shaking. He had lost control, and he knew it. But he was not done. He decided to double down. He would discredit Alara completely. He would dig up her past. He would find something, anything, to paint her as a criminal. He hired a private investigator. He dug into her records, and what he found terrified him. Alara Vance did not exist. Not really. Her social security number was linked to a classified military file. Her education records were sealed. Her employment history was blacked out. She was a ghost, and ghosts are dangerous. Thorne is digging into a past he shouldn't touch. If you are excited for the reveal, subscribe now. You won't want to miss this. 3 days later, a black SUV pulled up to the entrance of St. Jude's Hospital. It was not an ambulance. It was not a delivery truck. It was a government vehicle. Out stepped a man in a dark suit, tall, broad-shouldered, with a face carved from granite. He wore sunglasses, though it was overcast. He walked into the lobby with a purpose that parted the crowd like the Red Sea. Security guards moved to stop him, but he flashed a badge. They stepped back, intimidated. He asked for the administrator. He asked for Dr. Thorne, and he asked for Nurse Alara Vance. Patricia Cole met him in her office. She was nervous. She didn't know who he was, but she knew he was important. "Mr. she asked. "Commander Graves," he said. "United States Navy, retired, but I still have friends." He sat down, removing his sunglasses. His eyes were hard, intelligent. "I am here regarding Ms. Vance." Cole blinked. "Ms. Vance is being terminated for cause." Graves smiled. It was not a nice smile. "No, she is not. In fact, you are going to reinstate her with apologies, and you are going to investigate Dr. Thorne for negligence." Cole laughed nervously. "You can't be serious. We have protocols." Graves leaned forward. "Let me tell you about protocols. Ms. Vance, known in certain circles as Wraith, is a decorated combat medic. She has saved the lives of over 200 soldiers, including several high-ranking officials. She has received the Navy Cross. She is a hero. And you are firing her because a pompous cardiologist has a bruised ego." Cole's mouth fell open. "The Navy Cross, but her records are classified," Graves said. "Until now, I have waived the clearance for this specific purpose. You can verify it. Call the Pentagon, call the Secretary of the Navy. They will tell you the same thing. Alara Vance is one of the most competent medical professionals in this country, and you are treating her like garbage." The reveal is happening. If you are feeling the satisfaction of justice, hit the like button. Cole scrambled for her phone. She made the calls. She verified the information. Her face went pale. She looked at Graves. "What do you want?" "I want justice," Graves said. "I want Dr. Thorne removed from his position. I want a public apology to Ms. Vance. And I want to ensure that this never happens again, because if it does, I will not be the one coming back. My friends will, and they are not as polite as I am." Cole nodded quickly. "It will be done." Graves stood up. "Good, I will wait here." The authority has spoken. Now the confrontation. If you want to see Thorne face the music, keep watching. Thorne was summoned to the conference room. He arrived expecting to defend himself. Instead, he found Graves waiting for him, and Cole, and a lawyer, and Alara. Alara stood in the corner, silent, dignified. She wore civilian clothes, but she stood with the posture of a soldier. Thorne sneered at her. "What is this? A reunion?" Graves stepped forward. "Dr. Thorne, sit down." Thorne hesitated. "Who are you?" "I am the person who holds your career in his hand," Graves said. "Sit down." Thorne sat. He was sweating. Graves placed a file on the table. "This is the report from the Independent Review Board. It confirms that Ms. Vance acted correctly. It confirms that you hesitated. It confirms that you retaliated against her for saving a patient's life. It recommends immediate termination for gross misconduct and endangerment." Thorne's face twisted. "This is ridiculous. She is a nurse. I am a doctor." "You are a danger to your patients," Graves said calmly. "And you are fired, effective immediately. Your privileges are revoked. Your license is under review. And if you ever practice medicine again, I will personally ensure that every hospital in this country knows what you did." Thorne stood up shaking. "You can't do this. I have rights." "You had rights," Graves said. "You waived them when you chose arrogance over care. Get out." Thorne looked at Alara. He wanted to scream. He wanted to fight. But he saw something in her eyes, not anger, not triumph, pity, and that was worse. He turned and walked out, his career in ruins. Thorne is gone, but the story isn't over. If you are enjoying the vindication, share this video with a friend. The room was silent. Cole looked at Alara. "Ms. Vance, Alara, I am sorry. We made a mistake, a terrible mistake. We would like to offer you your job back with a raise and a public apology." Alara looked at Graves. He nodded. "I will accept the apology," Alara said, "but I will not accept the job." Cole looked shocked. "Why not?" "Because this place is broken," Alara said, "and I cannot work in a place that values status over substance. I will finish my notice period. I will train my replacement, and then I will leave." Graves smiled. "I have a job for you, Wraith, if you want it." Alara smiled back, a real smile. "I'd like that, Commander." Alara is choosing her own path. If you respect her decision, hit the like button. The public apology was issued the next day. It was printed in the local newspaper. It was posted on the hospital's website. It acknowledged Alara's heroism. It condemned Thorne's actions. It restored Alara's reputation. The staff was shaken. The students were humbled. The nurses were inspired. Alara walked through the halls one last time, not as a ghost, but as a legend. People stopped to thank her, to shake her hand, to apologize. She accepted their gratitude with grace, but she did not stay. She had a new mission. On her last day, Mr. Henderson was discharged. He came to the nurses' station to say goodbye. He hugged Alara. "You saved my life, dear," he said. "Thank you." "You saved yourself, Mr. Henderson," Alara said. "I just helped." He handed her a small package. Inside was a medal, a Navy Commendation Medal. "I heard about your service," he said. "Welcome home, sailor." Alara tears welled in her eyes. She pinned the medal to her scrub top. It was the first time she had worn her honor openly, and it felt good. This is the emotional payoff. If you are tearing up, you are not alone. Comment below with your favorite moment from the story. Alara left the hospital that evening. Graves was waiting for her in the SUV. "Where to?" he asked. "Forward," Alara said. They drove away, leaving the static behind. The rain had stopped. The sky was clearing, and for the first time in years, Alara Vance felt free. She was no longer the quiet nurse. She was Wraith, and she was ready for whatever came next. The story of Alara Vance is a reminder that competence cannot be hidden forever. If you agree, hit the like button. In the weeks that followed, St. Jude's Hospital underwent significant changes. Patricia Cole implemented new training programs focused on humility and teamwork. She established a committee to review disciplinary actions, ensuring that power dynamics did not influence justice. The nursing staff was empowered. The doctors were reminded that they were part of a team, not masters of it. And though Thorne was gone, his legacy remained as a cautionary tale. A reminder that arrogance is a disease, and humility is the cure. Alara joined Graves' organization, a private nonprofit that provided medical support to veterans and first responders. She traveled the world using her skills to heal those who had been forgotten. She was no longer invisible. She was seen. She was valued, and she was happy. But she never forgot the lesson of St. Jude S. She never forgot that silence is not weakness, that patience is not passivity, and that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous, because they are listening, they are watching, and they are waiting for the right moment to act. We are nearing the end. If you have enjoyed this journey, please subscribe. We have many more stories to tell. The moral of this story is simple. Integrity matters, competence matters, and treating people with dignity is not just a nice thing to do, it is the right thing to do. Thorne lost everything because he forgot this. Alara gained everything because she remembered it, and in the end, justice was served, not by revenge but by truth. So the next time you meet someone who is quiet, do not assume they have nothing to say. They may be saying everything with their actions. And the next time you are in a position of power, remember that true authority comes from service, not domination. Be humble, be kind, and be just. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Spread the message of integrity and justice. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Alara Vance. We hope you enjoyed the suspense, the emotion, and the vindication. We work hard to bring you these stories, and your support means everything to us. Please take a moment to like this video if you haven't already. It helps us reach more people who need to hear this message. And if you are new here, consider subscribing. We release new stories every week, each one designed to inspire, entertain, and remind us of the power of human resilience. Leave a comment below telling us what you thought of Alara's decision to leave. Would you have stayed? Or would you have moved on? We love reading your perspectives. And finally, thank you for being part of our community. You are the reason we do this. Stay tuned for our next story where we explore another tale of injustice and redemption. Until then, stay strong, stay kind, and keep whispering your truth.